Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Renison Jeffrey, and this is the Workers' Rights Platform. We are broadcasting live from the Workers' Rights Network. Now is 5:06 p.m., the 10th of June, 2024. Now again, the people at Trinidad and Tobago, we must admit, to all the viewers, thanks for listening and tuning in at this point in time. We have been on a stiff schedule today concerning the amount of information that is being propagated all over social media. And we would have reported just yesterday concerning a misinformation campaign that we believe have been perpetrated against Gary Griffith, and him and his team would have been reluctant as to take hold as such at the misinformation campaign and would have released a statement. And today we would have done some research as to some of the debates in which we are finding that in the public domain that there are a lot of definitional retreat that is taking place. Something that was said, there was a debate on the 30th of June, 2018, in which there was a debate as to install Gary Griffith. That was there, and yesterday we would have read out the statement that would have been made, sent from the NTA camp. The National Transformation Alliance had issued a media release addressing the misinformation campaign regarding public trust and confidence in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the TTPS, during Gary Griffith's tenure as Commissioner of Police. The release stated that Gary Griffith's leadership bring public trust and confidence, make it reach up to 59%, but have since plummeted to 8%. That is what's going on here, you know. And we must take cognizance of the fact that around this time here, when you're trying to discredit somebody or take a position and trying to feel justified for the position that you are taking, sometimes, I mean all the time, we have to admit that there are misinformation campaigns that exist here right now. Since after the time of Edward Bernays, in which he would have released a book that are called Propaganda, would have been relating that fact. If you listen to mainstream media, there was an ex-author by the name David Eagles. He would have talked about misinformation campaign, and we could go so far back as to Hitler. He himself would have written the book Propaganda. And there are people that would have labeled different aspects as to what, as to the framework of the propaganda principle, in which many of the leaders today, we could go far back as Cambridge Analytica, the election machinery, all these things is to sow, to bring you in through a direct form of manipulation as to get you to vote for them. There was a time in which we would have talked about the labels between the two parties. And at this point in time, before we move on, as per the argument in which Gary Griffith would have had an interview in which we would have picked up on, that would have been released today, we are going to start with the debate that would have taken place by Rowley himself. And the thing about it is that we just wonder if Rowley forget the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, like he does forget some of his statement. Because we would have found in this statement that was made here is in direct contrast or conflict as to what you are saying now. When you were saying that was a non-issue, now we find that you're picking up issue with that. And Gary Griffith would have been one of the men that, would have picked up on it too. He and his team We're going in right into the parliamentary debate that would have taken place on the 30th of June, 2018. Yes, 2018.
Mission as to what I should ask for investigation. All kind of discussions of what I should and shouldn't do. I didn't take an oath of office beholden to you and your friends. I took it beholden to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And when I asked for an investigation, Madam Speaker, I stand by that today. I asked for an investigation. Gary Griffith, if you want to know about Gary Griffith, of all the people named in that matter where an investigation was required, Gary Griffith was the only one to have turned in his devices and asked that his access, that open access be given to his email accounts. He was the only one, if he wants to know. So I don't know what he's talking about today. And of course,
I wonder if the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago remembered this. I wonder if he remembered that these words was coming from his mouth. I wonder that. Sometimes people must be cognizant of what they say in the past.
And of course, Madam Speaker, I will not waste time today to deal with the rest of it, but suffice it to say he was the only one. He now asked me, he had the temerity, Madam Speaker, to ask me what changed my mind on Gary Griffith, because when I asked for the investigation into that package of emails, which came through from the President to the Parliament to the police to the Integrity Commission, he asked what changed my mind. The honorable member asked what changed my mind, as if it's a question I can't answer. But let me answer it for him, Madam Speaker. You see, Madam Speaker, there are things that happen in life. There are things that happen in life that changes very many things. I don't have to justify to the member for Orapooch East what caused me to change my mind. But since he asked for a good reason, let me give that a good reason. Subsequent to this country was shown that the last government, very quietly, within the authority, opened a program called Live Sport. The rest of us in the Parliament didn't know about it. It was supposed to be either $6 or $8 million worth. It eventually turned out to be a $400 million criminal empire that was being funded by the state. It led to murder and mayhem, Madam Speaker. And it led to a level of criminality in the East-West corridor never seen before in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Gary Griffith was a member of the cabinet in those days. And he was in the forefront of alerting the public and standing on what he believed in against a cabinet that was prepared to defend Anil Roberts and live sport in Trinidad and Tobago. So if you want reason for changing his mind, that's a good reason for me to change my mind, because he stood up for the people of Trinidad and Tobago against a cabinet that was prepared to bury and hide live sport. Madam Speaker, this country has not overcome the effects of live sport up to this day. Up to this day. And what is worse, Madam Speaker, from the opposition, I observed him in the government, becoming a pariah in the government because he was prepared to speak truth to power. The very matter that he raised here about Gary Griffith and being a witness in the matter, Madam Speaker, the public saw Gary Griffith speaking the truth in a matter and the Prime Minister fired him.
That's right.
He was prepared to be fired in a job that they love. But he spoke the truth to the country. And if there's a legal matter going on today, his testimony is there and he will be cross-examined in the court, and it has nothing to do with any of us in this room today.
Now, where were you guys to pay attention to? Remember where he said there is nothing wrong with the factor that even if you is a witness in a case, it shouldn't be any hindrance to you as to be occupying a position. A way to remember that. And if you remember, let me bring it back a little bit.
He was prepared to be fed in a job that they love. But he spoke the truth to the country. And if there's a legal matter going on today, his testimony is there, and he will be cross-examined in the court.
A way to pay attention to that.
Today. So that story, again, is funked like the speaker it came from. Madam Speaker, those are non-issues. They are non-issues. Because today, Madam Speaker...
Now, you hear the words of the Prime Minister himself. These things are non-issues. Even, let me say, he has been a witness in a case. You hear him say that for himself. These things are non-issues. Now, I want you to pay attention to what we are going to play after. Now, we will continue with this piece of clip here because it's a short clip. Just to remain within context. And then after, we are going to play an interview by Gary Griffith. And you go see for yourself. You see, when you're playing this kind of game in the public domain and expecting the public to forget, no wonder some of the times when certain things is being said about you all, I just leave it alone. Just leave it alone.
Today, the acting commissioner of police, if he receives a report today on any member of this house, including you, Madam Speaker, a criminal matter, and he happens to be a witness in the matter, he is required to turn up in the court and give his testimony without let or hindrance. So what nonsense we are hearing in this house that some case going to take place in some court somewhere. It reminds me of a former speaker who intervened in a motion, Madam Speaker, a serious motion against a minister of finance in this country. And the speaker in the chair came to the house with a document and waved it and said he got this from the judiciary, saying that the matter was sub judice, and on that basis the speaker ended the debate. Turned out to be a lie. And today, well, since
Prime Minister, please just withdraw that. I'm sure you could find another one.
Madam Speaker.
Now, as I say, I just keeping this thing within context for you to understand the timeline in which I am going. Now, this here might be a little lengthy, but I want you to pay attention, the people at Trinidad and Tobago, as to what is taking place. Now, there are people that has go all out as to discredit an individual and try to fabricate evidence out of thin air. And as I tell you, we believe that there is a direct misinformation campaign as to smear the character and credibility and the contribution in which Gary Griffith will be able to give, or his expertise that he would be able to lend to us, the public and the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. So as I say, we're going right into this that I want to pay attention to.
Good morning, Mr. Griffith, and welcome.
Hi, good morning. It's always my pleasure. Good morning to you and to your many viewers.
And always a pleasure to have conversations with you. Now, we know that you are passionate about fighting crime. We know that your resume in terms of positions in fighting crime is long and wide and expands, being in the police and army, commissioner of police, minister of national security. So you have that measure of experience. And also we've spoken to your brilliant mind. And so we know that you do have the ideas and the strategies that you'd like to implement to fight crime on the island. However, we do know that there's a strain where that is concerned, and so some can call it an olive branch. You put in an offer to assist the Prime Minister to help fight crime in Trinidad and Tobago with the escalation that we've been seeing in recent past, and that was denied. And so we're having this conversation now. What is your position? In your opinion, why was this offer denied? You did say that you are disappointed, but you are not surprised. Why are you not surprised?
Well, yeah, and good morning again. Because the previous Prime Minister, Patrick Manning, said it. He actually understood the character of Keith Rowley when he said that when someone cannot have his way, he will see hate, he will see malice, he will see animosity, he will see somebody totally out of control. And it's the same thing that's happened here. So I didn't do this to expose to the country the character of Keith Rowley. I did it because I will always be a patriot before that of a Prime Minister. or a politician. And unfortunately, Keith Rowley has again showed the character that he's not putting the country first. I think it is disappointing that political leaders refuse to communicate. Even Fali Augustine, he has actually blocked me on his phone. And I am continuing to send things to explain to him what can be done to assist in securing Tobago. You will block me for that? So, I mean, Keith Rowley is not the only one. I think it is really rather disappointing that political leaders, persons who may have the ability to serve citizens, which is what politicians are. Our job is nothing more than to be a servant to help people. And your thing is, listen, I have reached that position. I don't want to talk to you. So Keith Rowley will block Gary. Fali Augustine will block Gary. Rowley might block Kamala. I mean, it is so childish. It is so immature. If you want to block people, then why bother to take the position in the first place? So the reason why, again, I understood Keith Rowley's, how he will operate, but I still had to do the right thing, the honorable thing. I will have to swallow my pride and put country first. It is amazing, absolutely amazing, that not 100% of the country will have thought that this is the right thing to do. But again, sometimes we are so politicized. People were actually upset about me doing this. Even granted that would have been made a main media house in Trinidad, they actually had 94% of the country supported my stance on trying to offer services, not to Keith Rowley, but to the country. But to that 6% and those people who are concerned, tell me something. If it is that I have that capability that may have assisted just to probably just reduce one less murder, one less kidnapping, one less home invasion by systems I could have recommended that might have prevented that, you have a problem with that? And that is why when I say that evil is invading our country, that the nation is drowning in blood, there are people who seem to benefit from this. There are people who seem to be so evil. You have to be evil to be upset by me offering my services. Whether you like me or not is irrelevant. Whether I like Keith Rowley or not is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that the government has totally collapsed, especially as it pertains to national security. 3 years ago, public trust and confidence in the police was 59%. Now it is 8%. 3 years ago, confidence in the commissioner was 76%. Now it's less than 10%. 3 years ago, it was the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years. Now it is the highest spike in crime. 3 years ago, crime was the number 4 concern in the economy, in the country. Now it is the number 1 concern. And we had over 100 policies that provided the deterrent, reduced the product of opportunity. Citizens felt safer. We had that rapid response, that high visibility. All that is gone. If it is that I can show that this can be done to assist, not just in Trinidad, but also Tobago, with many of the things that I would have done, and you as the leader in Tobago will block me, and you as the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago would not want my support because we have a different political party card, I think it is very unfortunate, it is very childish, it is very immature, and it is not becoming of politicians.
Mr. Griffith, we can't have this conversation without speaking about, because we're coming to try to get to the bottom of why you are being denied the opportunity, and you're saying it's because of the political difference, maybe he doesn't like you, a personal issue or whatever. But we also have to ask, remember that there was this accusation about your distribution of FULs, and so there was an investigation going on or something to that matter. Do you think that that has contributed to the decision that the Prime Minister made to deny you the opportunity to assist in helping?
Total stupidity, total ignorance, because right now there are about 50 matters being investigated on the police service. So that means you should fire Ulla Christopher or not speak to her. That is probably the dumbest perception anyone could ever have. So because there's an investigation, that means that a commissioner, you should not get the help of there are about 100 investigations I took over from Stephen Williams. That means that Stephen Williams should be blacklisted. There are over 100, probably 50 to 100, I think, going on right now in the police service. The Police Complaint Authority get more reports of police abuse, of wrongful arrests, of police committing criminal acts than ever before. So does that mean that Ulla Christopher should be fired? In fact, she was given a good grade. So the audacity of that ridiculous is mind-boggling, especially as it that not once any of these things were directed to me. So again, we speak about allegations. What allegation? Who reported a crime? What evidence? What witness? This country has stopped being this banana republic perception because a politician said something, because Rowley said something. The man has lied constantly on this firearm situation. And Fitzgerald Hines, they lied and said that people were bringing in component parts to change from semi-automatic to automatic. They lied. Fitzgerald Hines then called the name of a firearm dealer to say he didn't have his files. He lied. He had to apologize last week. They then said that persons with criminal records were getting firearms. They lied. They then said people were getting firearms in a day. They lied. So they have lied constantly, and then you're saying, so if I decide to say Keith Rowley is a drug lord, and then somebody just makes up something, that makes it automatic that that person should be blacklisted. So we have lost all aspects in our culture of persons bringing evidence or whatever. And the same thing is happening right now with Foster Cummins. You did an investigation, you can't find anything on him, and you refuse to close the case. This situation of, it is only in a banana republic that politicians will hire civilians, turn them into investigators, pay them big money, and then the civilians will give you a report, and then you read it out and say, look what this man has done. And people will believe that. So 3 years later, after all of this investigation and allegations you spoke about, not one person has been convicted, not one person charged, not one person arrested. So what issue are you speaking about? Not one person has been found guilty or charged for anything as it pertains to these investigations. So the audacity and the stupidity of trying to state that an allegation that has never even provided anything. The only person arrested, by the way, was a law-abiding citizen who was kidnapped in Barbados based on a minister giving approval to the police to go to Barbados to kidnap him. That is how desperate they were. Same thing happened with the SSA. You fired an SSA director and the man did nothing wrong. He never broke any law. He never committed any crime. But that is how PNM operates. You want to get rid of the Auditor General, the Commissioner of Police, the Director of the SSA, Head of the Integrity Commission, Head of the Central Bank. All of these people, you just Head of the Industrial Court. The list goes on and on. And you don't see that as dictatorship because, so Rowley says it is alleged. But this is not an Ian Allen show. This is a country we're trying to run. So a civilian who's a prime minister says something, no evidence, no witnesses, no data, no documents, nothing. And because he says that, it becomes a concern for 3 years. We have to stop being so blinded to follow politicians like sheep and start looking at the facts.
Mr. Griffith, as you're talking about politicians and the fact that there's a political, probably vendetta, I know the NTA is getting ready for elections, and you've mentioned in previous interviews that should you become prime minister, so of course you are back into politics, and of course you are eyeing that position. If you are successful in that, how are you going to manage that position to ensure, one, good relationships among politicians? Because you're saying now that politics should not be involved in the way we govern and the way we manage the society. So how are you going to manage those relationships with persons who are not in your political party? And how are you going to use your resources to ensure that crime is under control?
Yeah, good question. And again, it goes... The reason why it is that there's been measured success under my watch as Minister of National Security and Commissioner of Police is not because I'm an anti-crime expert. It has to do with leadership. It is that type of leadership that the country needs. The leadership of putting country first before that of politics. And that is what I intend to do, using those principles of that LAMP model of good leadership, accountability, measuring performance, and good management. Those are the things, when you use that, you can improve every aspect in our public service. So when it is you see our public service collapsing, it's because of lack of leadership to make sure people, their performance is being measured, making sure that they are accountable, leadership by example, managing properly. And you put those principles, it is going to transform everything, not just national security, but health, education, the economy, sport, social development, and that is what is required. Likewise, because of what I just spoke about, the reason why it was the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years, just 3 years ago, and now it is the highest increase in crime. The reason why it is that public trust in the police was 59% 3 years ago, and now it is 8%. The reason why that the Commissioner of Police support was 76% then, and now it is less than 10%. All of these things, it has to do with leadership, not because of Gary Griffith, but because you have someone as a leader then that was willing to embrace persons regardless of their political affiliation. I had 21 persons working alongside me with experts in the field, whether being in charge of management, financial, cybercrime, technology, all of these different things. And when I brought them in, I didn't want to know what party card you had. By doing that, I brought the best persons available, and that is what transformed the police service for people automatically to move from 14% to 59%, from being the least trusted to being the most trusted in the public service. And that is what is required. My intention is to be in a government that I'm not going to look for the person who has a blue party card, but I don't care about your party card. I just want the best person available to deal with national security, health, education, social development, sport. We have a Minister of Sport who has never kicked a line. We have a Minister of Communication who has never once communicated in several years. We have a Minister of Finance who can't even balance a simple budget. So we have a Minister of National Security who doesn't even know his role and function. He said his role is not to secure citizens. So that is what we have endured. We have a Prime Minister who's chair of the National Security Council with no training, qualification, or expertise in national security. The man is a geologist. And that is because he doesn't know anything about national security, but he makes decisions to secure you in this country, and that is why we are failing. So what I want is to make sure I get the best minds available, regardless of your political affiliation. I would like as well even state boards, which is the biggest avenue for corruption. We can actually reduce over $5 billion, I think, in corruption and mismanagement, bad investment, because we put square pegs in round holes because of the party card you had. So because I will pull my chair, I will pull your chair when you sit down in a political meeting, I will give you a state board position. 90% of the people on state boards have no training, qualification, or experience in that field of the state board that they're in. We're supposed to have a criteria to say, for you to be in this state board, you must have the following requirements. We don't have that. So we put all kind of people, because of their party card being close to the political leader of the party that gets into government, put them in a position to decide how taxpayers are going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars, and all of the persons in the state board are solely selected by political affiliation, which is an avenue for corruption. My intention is to put at least 10% of all state board members to be members of the opposition, to put checks and balances to prevent that type of mismanagement, incompetence, and corruption. That is my intention.
Mr. Griffith, and in closing, there's one question I really want to ask. When someone hears the name Gary Griffith, what do you want them to think?
Trust. That is it. Nothing more than trust. You see, if people trust politicians, it is going to do a lot. The reason why there was a massive reduction in crime is because the citizens, they had trust in me. It was 89% of the country wanted me to remain as commissioner or had no concern. Even Keith Rowley, he amended the law for me to remain. I didn't want to stay. I was ready to go. I didn't renew my contract. So trust is important. We do not trust politicians. Because as politicians, we wouldn't trust the police service. Because we don't trust the justice system, we're not going to give information to assist in pinpointing criminals. That is what happens now. We need to start trusting politicians. I intend to show that I have the capability, the character, and being God-fearing enough for you to trust me. And that is what happened. When we had that 482 Gary, hundreds of lives were saved because I was getting information that of people will call, there's no such thing as a perfect crime. They will call to let me know. I will immediately call the Special Operation Response Team that was also shut down, as well as the Emergency Response Patrol, the Rapid Response Unit, the Community Comfort Patrol, the E999, the Operational Command Center, the Commissioner's Command Center. Everything they shut down because of bad mind. I am up to the country. Have trust in me that I can be able to make Trinidad and Tobago safe again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Griffith.
Now, to you, the people at Trinidad and Tobago, you would have heard it there yourself. We would have played the two in juxtaposition. That you could make your own analysis concerning the reason that the Prime Minister would have gave in concordance with the statement from Gary Griffith and what he would have actually said in Parliament. And one must ask the question, is this Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, care about the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago? We must ask ourselves the question, if Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley and his government seeing the carnage that is taking place, or they are just plain blind. What was taking place in Trinidad and Tobago as sea, a river of blood. And nobody wants to take responsibility whatsoever. And we see in a person that have rise to the occasion as to volunteer his services and his expertise. And nobody ain't saying anything, nobody don't want, and it's a bad mind thing. Watch how much schools We could debate that the schools in which the UNC would have built is within areas in which they would have obtained the most support from. We could debate that whole day. But why some of them school and them underneath bush are covered with vine and all kind of thing growing up inside it? Why these things just halted? Your money, your tax-paying dollars, it in a value. You go up on the highway, you see a building that, you know, Patrick Manning was building when the next administration come. All these things have to stop. And who could stop this? Both of us. So when we come here on this platform and calling for national unity amongst the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago, this is what we are calling for. This is what we are calling for.
As to what I should ask for investigation. All kind of discussions of what I should and shouldn't do. I didn't take an oath of office on your friends. I took it beholden to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And when I asked for an investigation, Madam Speaker, I stand by that today. I asked for an investigation. Gary Griffith, if you want to know about Gary Griffith, of all the people named in that matter where an investigation was required, Gary Griffith was the only one to have turned in his devices and asked that his access, that open access be given to his email accounts. He was the only one, if he wants to know. So I don't know what he's talking about today. And of course, Madam Speaker, I will not waste time today to deal with the rest of it, but suffice it to say he was the only one. You know, ask me what changed my mind on Gary Griffith, because when I asked for the investigation into that package of emails, which came through from the President to the Parliament to the police to the Integrity Commission, he asked what changed my mind. The honorable member asked what changed my mind, as if it's a question I can't answer. But let me answer it for him, Madam Speaker. You see, Madam Speaker, there are things that happen in life. There are things that happen in life.
We just want to soak in a little
Very
bit.
many things. I don't have to justify to the member for Orapooch East what caused me to change my mind. But since he asked for a good reason, let me give that a good reason. Subsequent to this country was shown that the last government, very quietly, within the authority, opened a program called Life Sport. The rest of us in the Parliament didn't know about it. It was supposed to be either $6 or $8 million worth. It eventually turned out to be a $400 million criminal empire that was being funded by the state. It led to murder and mayhem, Madam Speaker. And it led to a level of criminality in the East-West corridor never seen before in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Gary Griffith was a member of the cabinet in those days. And he was in the forefront of alerting the public and standing on what he believed in against a cabinet that was prepared to defend Anil Roberts and live sport in Trinidad and Tobago. So if you want reason for changing his mind, that's a good reason for me to change my mind, because he stood up for the people of Trinidad and Tobago against a cabinet that was prepared to bury and hide live sport. Madam Speaker, this country has not overcome the effects of live sport up to this day. Up to this day. And what is worse, Madam Speaker, from the opposition, I observed him in the government, becoming a pariah in the government because he was prepared to speak truth to power. The very matter that he raised here about Gary Griffith and being a witness in the matter, Madam Speaker, the public saw Gary Griffith speaking the truth in a matter and the Prime Minister fired him.
That's right.
He was prepared to be fired in a job that they love. But he spoke the truth to the country. And if there's a legal matter going on today, his testimony is there and he will be cross-examined in the court, and it has nothing to do with any of us in this room today. So that story, again, is funked like the speaker it came from. Madam Speaker, those are non-issues. They are non-issues, because today, Madam Speaker, today, the acting commissioner of police, if he receives a report today on any member of this House, including you, Madam Speaker, a criminal matter, and he happens to be a witness in the matter, he is required to turn up in the court and give his testimony without let or hindrance. So what nonsense we are hearing in this House that some case going to take place in some court somewhere. It reminds me of a former speaker who intervened in a motion, Madam Speaker, a serious motion against a Minister of Finance in this country. And the speaker in the chair came to the House with a document and waved it and said he got this from the judiciary, saying that the matter was sub judice, and on that basis the speaker ended the debate. Turned out to be a lie. And today, well, since
Prime Minister, please just withdraw that. I'm sure you could find another one.
Madam Speaker, mission as to what I should ask for investigation.
Now, before we move on, the rest of this discourse, we would have just picked up on a press release from the National Transformation Alliance have endorsed Minister Foster Cummins' call for resolution to the prolonged investigation by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the TTPS, into the intelligence report. The NTA believe that the police must either substantiate the allegation with concrete evidence and proceed with charges or publicly close the investigation immediately. And seeing that this would have came from the National Transformation Alliance camp, we have to go with the notion that this come from Gary Griffith himself, as the report threatens to defame Minister Cummins and highlight border issues of inconsistency and potential bias within the governmental framework led by Prime Minister Keith Rowley. So what we would have just read here is a press release that would have came from the National Transformation Alliance camp. They would have endorsed the call of Minister Foster Cummins as to the prolonged investigation that is taking place on the intelligence report. Is either you substantiate the allegation with concrete evidence or proceed with withdrawing the statement publicly. And in terms of the smearing of people's character, we agree, despite the side of the fence that we are on. Don't hang a man outside it up to dry. We agree with that. And we have to be fair in with statement. And this is what fair governance must be in Trinidad and Tobago for the betterment of the people. So when we call on you, the members of the public, to unite underneath one flag, this is what we are talking about. No longer must one government supersede the other when they come into office. They disregard the project that the previous government would have started. Who feeling the blunt? Who paying for this? And as again, my name is Wellington Jeffrey. This is the Workers' Rights Platform. Now, before we go, as can be proven, all on a sudden, for this whole 3-4 years that the government is in power, no this, no that taking place throughout Trinidad and Tobago, but all on a sudden, Sports Day coming up. People cleaning trophy.
Me and them family. Hello. This is so embarrassing. You caught me while I was polishing our trophies. You know, 2023 team of the day for the PNM Sports, W O'Mara, the overall champions,
Bad roads.
victors,
You ain't studying
just winners. And we look forward to beating you all again, June the 23rd, 2024. W O'Mara, W O'Mara, W O'Mara for the win always. And great is the PNM, and W O'Mara shall always prevail.
So you the people at Trinidad and Tobago, you go let the government mama guy over here? For years, the cries of the normal people are left unheard. People going in the road, we burning tires, we blocking road. And seeing that we are in an election mode in Trinidad and Tobago, you're coming with all kind of sports day. I want to know if you the people at Trinidad and Tobago are pipers. I want to know if our government could mistreat you for years. And the last year leading up to the election, they could come with all kind of sports day and ceremony, and you jumped it just like that. I want to know what's going on with Samoa. And there's our next video, you know, because we've seen it all through social media now. Yes, we've seen it all through social media. And it's our reason why we should play these things.
June 23rd.
All these things we should play. Mama guy for you. Next one here again.
June 23rd, Skinner Park. W O'Mara, see MP talking about who wanted to come and get it. March past, bingo, all fours, curry duck.
Why are you doing hush your mouth?
Martin Central forever. We better together, but it's like same way.
All through social media, all these things playing. All through social media. I want to know what's going on with Samoa.
People's National Movement acknowledges the significance of a constitution. But what happened with this constitution is that it was framed in 1962. We are now some more than 60 years forward. And the issue of reform is really, is this constitution, which is a document that is supposed to represent the will and aspirations of a people, is it at present representing the will and aspirations of the people? It brings us to what we are doing here, which is a very significant event, which is bringing together to the National Advisory Committee on Constitutional Reform the PNM's position on the Constitution. The views that stood out there is the view about the executive presidency, the views about the first past the post system, the views about the service commission, the views about the salary reviews commission, the views about the constitutional, the individual constitutional rights. And particularly what was interesting was the views relative to the protection of the rights of the children.
Now, take a look at this man here. That is the man that tell her here to get a cool pot. That is the same man that tell her here to ride a bicycle. That is the same man there. I want to know if that is, if Oya Kobo Belly. In this last year, You was mistreated in a particular way, and if Oye is going to just take a tap on Oye back at $200 somewhere, then send a jersey and vote for me. Do we not worth more than that? The people at Trinidad and Tobago, do you not worth more than that? It's a misinformation campaign that is going on all through Trinidad and Tobago, and you will be seeing these things propagated all through social media. Or you have to understand that we are in election mode, and we must remember these are the same people that would have made us jobless. 21,000 people are fired from Petrotrin when you restructure it. Or you only take back about 10 to 12,000 people. The amount of business place turned down, closed down, a matter of fact. Nah, man. Nah. That is the same man there, that man. Is the man that say, they are cold pot. That man right there. And we hear in the grapevine that the nominating or the intent to put up Brian Lara, we hear that, we can't substantiate that claim. But we are hearing that they want to put up Brian Lara for a seat. And what we are saying here today, if that is true, Brian Lara Warrior, come down here and see the dilapidated infrastructure that it have in Point 14 and Library, and see if you want to put yourself with a party like that. That's all I have to say. And with that, we are out. Thanks for listening and being a part of this broadcast and going on this journey with us. We have some more things to bring forward to you within the public domain. Discussion like this has always been a pleasure to us. And don't forget, the many of you that need a car, or you contact Can, Sheldon Can, on the number 7853882. 7853882. For trusted expert, I know. You might be looking for a car for luxury, contact Sheldon Can. And with that, people, we are out. Thanks for listening and being a part of this broadcast.